And joining us on Hot Copy, Professor Richard Heydarian, Professor J. Batongbacal. Thank you for coming to the show. We'll be talking about Asia's new battlefield, the U.S., China, and the struggle for the Western Pacific. First, I want to ask you, is there really need for more U.S. presence in the West Philippine Sea?
Well, I mean, ideally, there should not be intervention by external powers. The United States is not a claimant state, so ideally it shouldn't be part of the picture. But the reality is that there's tremendous amount of power asymmetry between China and neighboring countries, and that has given China an impunity, a carte blanche to do whatever it wants. That is why, for a lot of countries, including us in the Philippines, because we have a treaty alliance with the United States, we feel that it is also incumbent upon the United States to help us. But more than that, the United States also has an interest in freedom of navigation in the South China Sea. It's an artery for global trade. More than 10% of trade in the area also goes to the United States. So U.S. also has a direct interest in ensuring that no single country dominates the South China Sea and no single country imposes restrictions on the freedom of overflight and freedom of navigation in the area, both for civilian and military purposes. So in that sense, yes, I believe that the United States presence is almost inevitable and necessary.
But then, Professor J, how would this affect the relationship between China and the smaller countries? I mean, many fear that the largest trading partner of all of these countries is essentially China. The U.S. has, I don't know how much, is it 2 trillion in debt with China?
1.3
1.3 trillion.
Right.
So the end problem would be smaller countries that depend on China.
Yes. Well, definitely that would complicate the situation because the different ASEAN countries have different interests vis-a-vis China. So some of them, as you said, China is their #1 trading partner. Others, it's not, especially us. But other countries also, it might be #2 or #3. And then also geographically, some of them are much, much closer to China than, say, us or Indonesia. So definitely the entry of the United States, an external power, as well as any other power, would seriously complicate things for China in the first place.
All right. Okay. Now, we've prepared graphics. This is for our audience to have a deeper understanding. It seems that more U.S. presence in the West Philippine Sea is inevitable.
Right. And
do you both agree with that?
Quite necessary.
All right, then
Yes,
quite
it's
necessary.
inevitable.
Okay, so we'll be showing you first. This is graphics of the Spratly Islands, the bases right now in the Spratlys. All right, can we show this? All right, let's show the base. Okay, let's start with that. Explain.
Right. I mean, as you can clearly see there, the yellow circles, those are by China. The triangle in red, those are Vietnam, which is actually the most number, I think more than around 21. The Philippines is second in blue circle.
So you mean Vietnam has 21 bases?
No, it controls around 21 features, but not all of them are fully developed.
Okay,
now,
so 21 features.
Features are under control by Vietnam. It has some sort of presence and some of them military presence. Second is the Philippines with around 8 features under its control, including Pag-asa. And then third is China with 7. And then Malaysia comes next, then Taiwan is the last, but Taiwan controls the most important feature, Ito Aba. But if you look at it, the features that are controlled by China, Subi Reef is very close to Thito Island, or what we call Pag-asa. And then if you go a little bit down, Mischief Reef is controlled by China, which is very, very close to Reed Bank, or what we call Recto Bank, and very close to Ayungin, or Second Thomas Shoal. So actually the Chinese bases, which are very well developed, are closest to us. So if you can go to the next graph.
All right, move it, the next graph.
Right. So actually the Philippines was the second country to establish an airstrip in the area in 1973, after Vietnam, I think, in 1971. But ours was the most developed during that time. In fact, we set the precedence for developing advanced facilities. But over time, it seems that we have been left behind as other countries emulated us and developed their own airstrip. But China is in a whole different level. So in a matter of 18 months, it has developed a 3-kilometer-long airstrip that can accommodate all sorts of advanced aircraft. So if you look at the Philippines airstrip, it only can accommodate smaller kinds of aircrafts.
So I think you should be specific. the Philippine airstrip, Professor Jay, maybe you can comment.
Yes.
The Philippine airstrip is the one on Spratlys.
No, it's the one on C2
C2
Island.
It's number
Spratly is occupied by Vietnam, so
Alright.
C2 Island is ours.
Okay,
Right.
so the Spratly Island airstrip, that's Vietnam.
Yes.
The Tito Island airstrip, that's
Spagasa.
the Philippines.
Philippines,
Spagasa.
yes.
Okay, so we have 1,000 meters there.
Right.
Yes.
Ito Aba, this is Taiwan.
Taiwan.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is Taiwan, so it's just the same size as the Philippines. Swallow Reef is
That's
what?
Malaysia.
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 Yeah,
yeah. Right.
All right.
It's only a little bit longer.
Okay, so Professor Jay, what does the Fiery Cross Reef airstrip controlled by China, the fact it's 3,000
Yes.
Meters.
meters,
3 kilometers long.
Yes.
3 kilometers, why should we fear?
Well, it's because when you compare all of these airstrips, China's is the only one that can accommodate the largest and most offensive military aircraft. The rest of these other airstrips, they're basically short airstrips. They're built really more for supply of the islands. They can accommodate maybe smaller cargo planes. The largest one is the C-130 because the C-130 is designed for short runways. But China's can take on fighter aircraft, military cargo aircraft, and all sorts of, even the space shuttle, I think, can be accommodated there. No?
Oh, really?
That's how different China's airstrip
And
is.
in terms of intention, is it true that this is the first serious airstrip that China has built? And they built it
for
outside?
a long time, the Chinese have been
Yes.
complaining that, oh, we are the only country who hasn't built an airstrip.
Yeah.
Everyone else has
Yeah.
built that. And then they build it on the next level. So
Yeah.
they have a 3-kilometer long on Fiery Cross, but they're building 2 more. One on the Subi Reef, which I showed was very close to Pagasa, and the other one on the Mischief Reef. So they will have a triangular
3.
airstrip, each of them probably 3-kilometer long. And the thing is this, they're so advanced and so big that they will allow China to project power from these features, as opposed to other countries who can only send troops to those features and protect those features under. So in short, these airstrips and these facilities can be the southernmost forward deployment base of China. No longer Hainan, but it will be the Fiery Cross and together supported with Subi Reef and Mischief. And that's why it's very disconcerting. And I think that explains why the U.S. right now is more aggressive in coming in and pushing back against China by conducting these freedom of navigation operations.
Yeah, and I think that is really the biggest concern. This is a very significant change in the situation on the ground. That's what the U.S. is always harping about. It's really totally altered the balance of power within that area. Whereas before, everybody could basically just resupply their facilities. No? This one, the facilities of China can actually now be used for offensive capabilities.
Yeah. But then you do have China always assuring that the freedom of navigation will not be affected.
Yes.
Right.
Why doesn't anyone trust them?
Right. I think when it comes to merchant fleet and trade, civilian trade, I don't think the Chinese will impose the restrictions. It's not in their interest. They're the biggest trading nation. But absolutely, I'm very certain that we'll continue to impose more restrictions on freedom of navigation for militaries, of particularly the U.S. Navy and other countries. Of course, the UNCLOS provides for freedom of navigation for foreign vessels within the 200 nautical miles easy and beyond, not necessarily within the 12 nautical miles territorial sea. But the Chinese, since early 2000s, have been imposing all sorts of restrictions on the movement of American aircrafts, military aircrafts, and naval forces.